So for those of you who are new to our teaching raids, I want to make sure that you know that this is an environment for learning and for asking questions. So at any point in the raid, if you're not sure what's going on, please chime in. Me or any one of my guildies here, like half the group is High Lords here, we're happy to answer questions that you have. And we do have some returning folks to the teaching raids too, which is really awesome. Welcome back, guys. So this is basically sort of just a beatdown raid, but it does have some unique quest mechanics that is good to be aware of. So when we step forward and we talk to the artifact there in the middle that has the light shining to the sky, that's when the raid will lock and start. Nobody will be able to come in late at that point, and then the 2 dragon bosses will spawn. One will spawn in the south, and one will spawn in the north. And they have names, Navarlich and Theraxata, but we just call them Fatty and Skinny, affectionately, because it's easier to remember that than their actual names. So Fatty will spawn in the south, and Skinny will spawn in the north. And they need to be kept separate in order to DPS them. If they're too close together, then they are immune to damage. And by the way, this play area that you see, this big field here, this is the whole raid. There are no other zones. It's all going to take place right here. And so we're going to have 1 tank assigned to each dragon. Paydor is going to be in the south, and Quintina is going to be in the north. And so you want to hold your dragons in the north and south, and the DPS group is going to sort of move back and forth between each dragon, and the dragons can only be DPS'd down a certain amount at each stage in the raid. And so what's going to happen is, like when we start, we'll start with the DPS group on the north dragon, and then the south dragon tank will just hold the dragon there. And then once that north dragon can't be DPS'd anymore, its skin will look like lava, and you'll hear us say like, Skinny is magma, DPS group south, and then you'll just switch to the south dragon and you'll DPS that dragon down until it can't be DPS'd anymore. And then you'll go back to the north dragon, and you'll be swapping back and forth between the dragons to get them DPS down to whatever point they can be for that stage in the raid. After the dragons are DPS down a little bit, the trash will start spawning. And trash endlessly spawns in this raid. You can never kill it all. It just continuously spawns. And killing trash in this raid is really just about keeping the dungeon alert down. And so it's just a numbers game. You just want to kill as much of it as you can, as fast as possible. So you really want to focus on the weakest stuff first. So like the skeletons are the weakest mobs, and then you've got some hellhounds, are probably the next weakest, and there's some casters, and there's also salamanders. And then there are these 2 magma brutes, which are like lava elementals. And they have a lot of hit points, and if you kill them, they just respawn right away, so there's no value in killing them. Some pugs might have a person assigned to kiting them the entire raid. I like to just have our trash people just sort of run around with them. They don't do earth grab or anything like that, but they look like earth elementals. But they look like lava though. And so trash people at that point will be on trash for the rest of the raid. And the dragon DPS group will continue to swap back and forth between the dragons. And then at one point the dragons will fly up, and then 2 gargantuan sort of lava elementals will appear, and they're called the Volcanic Annihilator and the Volcanic Devastator, and they're huge. And so what we're going to do at that point is we're just going to pull everything together, all trash and those guys too. We're just on normal, so it's not going to be that big of a deal. That way our AoEs can just hit everything. And the dragons, will be up in the sky, so the tanks can even join in the fun for killing trash there. After the Annihilator and the Devastator are destroyed, then the dragons will reappear, and the 2 tanks need to go to their corresponding areas of the field and hold their tanks there while the DPS group continues to move back and forth. Once the dragons get to 50% health, then the artifact in the middle becomes vulnerable. And that's at that point of the raid, everybody who was on Dragon DPS will switch to artifact and trash only. And the tanks will hold the dragons in the north and south ends, and they will just hold the dragons there for the rest of the raid until the artifact is destroyed. And so the artifact will be able to be DPS'd about 20%, and then a shield will come up making it invulnerable, and then everybody will work on trash except the 2 tanks. And after about like 60 or 90 seconds, the shield goes back down. We can DPS the artifact a little bit, and then the shield comes back up. You go back to trash. And you keep doing that, trash and artifact, until the artifact is destroyed. And when the artifact is destroyed, it will blow up, killing anybody around it, or doing a ton of damage. So if you're with your friends, you want to play a gag on them and tell them that they need to be next to the artifact when it goes down. But since this is a teaching raid, we're not going to do that to you, but it is a fun gag to play on people. So one of the mistakes that pugs make at this point is they will continue to DPS the dragons. But there is no value in doing that because once the artifact goes down, both of the dragons immediately drop to 5% health. When the artifact goes down, we'll kill one dragon, we'll do the north one first, and I'll be talking us through the whole thing. When the north one goes down, we'll switch to the south dragon, then we'll clean up the trash, and we'll be done. So the nutshell is, move back and forth between dragons for half the raid, artifact and trash for the second half of the raid, kill the dragons, and we're done. And then the trash people kill trash for the whole raid. Does anybody have any questions before we get started? There's no script, it's just all in my head. It comes from explaining it to guildies so many times, Ani. So there are the jobs. On the South Dragon, on Fatty is going to be Paydor. On Skinny in the North is going to be Quintina. And Takashi and Sparrowhite are going to back up tanks. Just in case you guys have any issues, because I know that you're new to tanking these dragons, they'll take over for you. On Trash will be me and Ani and Takashi. And then Mickey and Shiramoya will be on heals. And everybody else will be part of the Dragon DPS group. Oh, and everybody except for Paydor will start north. Alright, let's do it. By the way, no fail intimidate for these dragons on Epic Elite is something like 108. I don't know what it is for normal and hard. I do know that Ginger has 105 in Tim, and I never fail on normal or hard. Remember, the dragons have to be kept separate to DPS them, so make sure that they're in the north and south ends of the zone. Alright, Skinny is Magma, DPS group south. Trash will be spawning shortly. Alright, Trash is going to spawn here any second. DPS group can stay south at this point. You can stay south. Trash is up. Okay, Fatty is Magma, DPS group north. Okay, dragons are airborne, so we're going to deal with the Annihilator and Devastator. So everything in the whole zone can be brought together at this point. The two big boys and all the trash. A little bit laggy in here. Alright, the big boys are down, so Paydor, go back to the south and wait for your dragon. DPS group can stay north. Yeah, I'm lagging too. Still playable, but irritating. DPS group should be north. North is Magma, DPS group south. Okay, this is the point in the raid where just the tanks are going to hold the dragons in the north and south, and everybody else is on artifact and trash only. Also, tanks, if I should have mentioned this earlier, but you should have an examination window open on your dragon. And in fact, everybody who's new, go ahead and examine Fatty in the south, because I want you to take a look at the buff that they have called Artifact Overdraw. It looks like the symbol for Fairy Fire. It's kind of a fireball looking red symbol. And you can see that it says that they're doing 400% damage. So at this point in the raid, or before this point in the raid, they would get a buff called Artifact Rage, which is 300% damage, but at this point in the raid, they're getting Artifact Overdraw, which is 400% damage. So it's a lot tougher to stay toe-to-toe with them when they have that big buff, and that big buff will switch back and forth between the two dragons. So some people would just kite them around at that point. So right now, just the two tanks are holding the dragons in the north and south. Nobody's DPSing them. There's no value in DPSing the dragons, and we're watching for the artifact to be vulnerable, which it is right now. And the shield's back up, so we go back to trash. And the artifact shield stays down for a certain amount of damage, not for a certain amount of time, so it's not necessarily a race to get to it. And Thoraxida in the north, the skinny dragon, has the big buff now. And there's actually a message, if you notice, that comes on screen. It says the power of the meridian something or other is switching between the dragons. I'll try to remember to point it out. There you go, right there. Oh no, that's the shield. Remember, when the artifact goes down, it will explode. So when it's getting low, you just want to do range damage to it.
That's the power of the meridian switching to the name of the dragon.
Okay, thank you. Artifact. Trying to get that magma brute off you, Paydor, but he doesn't want to budge.
He's off now.
It like dragon finds him crunchy and tastes good with ketchup.
Artifact. So it's gonna explode, and Sparrowwhite's gonna die. Oh, you got away! Nice. So kill the North Dragon first, folks. Go ahead and kill the North Dragon, and note that they both went down to 5% health. And when the North Dragon goes down, you can switch to the South Dragon. Killing both dragons will complete the raid, so put your voices on. But we'll still have trash to clean up once it's complete. Nice work. Congratulations on your first fire on Thunder Peak for those of you who it was your first time.
I have to say, I enjoyed this one way more than the other one.
Okay, let's
What,
see.
you didn't like all the mirror puzzles?
Who was new? Azruth, you're brand new to this, right? Okay, why don't you go ahead and do the honors on the chest. You can open it. If anybody has any questions about this raid, just let us know. We will be doing Temple of the Deathwyrm next. Everybody's welcome to stay for that.
Well, I see what you did, Ginger. You got me in this one, so I'd be here for the next.
Oh, if you can't stay, buddy, it's no problem.
Oh, I can't. I'm gonna roll the phlogiston as well. And on this then.
Anybody that's not aware, the phlogistons and the shadow scale, or the scales and the ingots, these are used to craft your Thunderforge weapons and your Thunderforge armor. And you can craft fully upgraded Thunderforge armor with totally unbound ingredients. You don't have to run the raids to craft that. And you can craft up to tier 2 Thunderforge weapons with unbound ingredients. But you do need the phlogistons to craft tier 3 onto your Thunderforge weapons, and those are what comes from the raid. So the fire phlogistons come from here, and the shadow phlogistons come from Temple of the Deathwyrm. Alright, well, thanks for coming, everybody. You can recall out and sell and repair. And like I said, we'll be doing Temple of the Deathwyrm next.